Welcome back to the channel, everybody. You know what we're about here, recovering together from pornography-induced sexual dysfunctions and pornography addiction. There's a new background you might notice. I just moved recently, so get used to it. Pretty much the same Noah, though, so I'm still here. And today we're going to be talking about a story sent to me by a subscriber. If you ever want to send me a story, I'm always happy to read them, whether they're a success story or a story of your struggle and journey so far. You can email me, noah@addictedtointernetporn.com. Or if you want to work with me personally, of course, just go to my website. You can learn all about that there. But this gentleman, 4 years ago, found my work, got inspired, decided to quit using pornography, went 90 days, which is a great start, a great foundation. It's what most people have in mind as a goal when they first start, but was not seeing the progress he wanted to see, went back to pornography for several years. So let's see where he is now. Hi, Noah. I'm writing to let you know that the information I got from your YouTube videos and book have finally led to me fixing my PIED issues. Some backstory. Growing up, I was exposed to internet porn around the age of 13. I immediately latched onto it and became a daily user of porn for all my teenage years and the majority of my 20s. This is a story shared by millions of young men now. Myself included, my story was very similar to your own, though I started even earlier than you. And it is very easy to become bonded to something that is designed and catered to an immature male sexuality. You find something that's very visually stimulating that you become very curious about and that gives you pleasure when you see it. And you go back to it again and again and, of course, masturbate to it. And in the end, you become conditioned to it such that it becomes difficult to motivate yourself to do the hard thing and actually go out and meet people and make real connection and real intimacy happen. And when you do actually make that happen, well, we're about to see how that goes. I was kind of a nerd in school and wasn't interested in relationships, so I ended up being a late bloomer in life and didn't have my first real sexual experience until I was 23. And wow, it was an eye-opener. I couldn't get hard at all. We tried for 2 hours and it ended up being an incredibly awkward and demoralizing experience. Needless to say, that girl did not stick around. Another common aspect of youthful male developing sexuality nowadays, unfortunate as it may be. And it's not something that we talk about enough. I think we are making progress. I think more and more people are aware that pornography use can cause relationship and sexual dysfunctions in the future when you're using it consistently over years. And then it can become, in fact, an addiction, meaning that even once you realize it is hurting you and you determine to quit or reduce your use, you find that you don't have full control of your behavior in that regard. And we'll see that this individual probably qualifies for that as well. From that moment, my ego was shaken so badly that I didn't attempt to date for another 4 years. I had no clue what the cause for my ED was, but I chalked it up to not being attracted enough and nerves. It wasn't until I was 27 when I threw myself back into the dating pool. He got burned badly enough at age 23 that for 3 or 4 years, he basically gave up on dating and was not putting himself back in that risky situation. If he did not have access to pornography and unlimited supply of sexual content, I'm willing to bet that he probably would not have let it go 4 years before he decided to put himself back into that dating pool. But pornography allows us that ability to anesthetize ourselves and give ourselves that false feeling of satisfaction and not any longer have that strong desire and that strong need to push outside of ourselves and take risks and go out and meet people and find real connection, something that can actually satisfy and not just give us that false feeling of satisfaction for the moment that is, in fact, taking away from our long-term happiness and fulfillment. But what would happen next would only lead to more depression. I clicked with several women on dating apps, but every time it came to being intimate, No matter how attractive I found them, I could not get hard at all. I just felt dead inside. There was nothing exciting about it. I would actually feel resentment that others could enjoy this and I couldn't. Now, sex and money have at least one thing in common, and that is that when you don't have them, they become the most important thing in the world to you. And they shouldn't be the most important thing in life, but when you're completely deprived of one or the other, it tends to become that thing. And not with everybody, at least not with the sex one. But for many young men who have never had successful sex, never had a satisfying, intimate relationship, it becomes the focal point of their life, that lack. And they don't know how to make it happen. They've been educated consciously and subconsciously by pornography over years throughout their adolescence and young adulthood that sex and intimacy look a certain way. And when in fact, that's really not how it usually looks or should look in a healthy relationship, what is usually depicted in pornography. Some of the women tried to support me, but it was too much for them after a while. I kept suffering breakups, and I never fully felt like a man. This caused my anxiety to grow every time and made my brain associate sex with only negative thoughts. That's something I see commonly as well, that the more negative sexual experiences one accumulates, the more one starts to associate all those negative feelings, fear, anxiety, dread, shame, disappointment, guilt, with sexual intimacy. And so when they do have another opportunity to experience that intimacy with another person that they are attracted to, they might intentionally avoid it because now they associate it with all of these painful feelings. And if they do eventually decide or realize that pornography is the root cause of their sexual dysfunction, leave it behind and heal physically enough to be able, theoretically, to have sex, they might still have that associated negative emotion getting in the way, performance anxiety. And without being able to relax and just enjoy themselves and lose themselves in the moment, they may still not be able to sexually perform and have a satisfying and enjoyable sexual experience because of that psychological factor. And I made an article about that recently, so look back on my channel or on my website for that one. I think it's called How to Overcome Sexual Performance Anxiety. I had no clue what was wrong. I went to the doctor and they told me I'm perfectly healthy and I should try Viagra. I wish I had a buck for every time I've heard that story from a client. For those with porn-induced sexual dysfunctions, I very rarely recommend the use of sildenafil, drugs like Viagra or Cialis that contain sildenafil, because it's not addressing the real cause of porn-induced sexual dysfunctions. It targets the blood vessels. And in most people, especially the young people with porn-induced sexual dysfunction, their blood vessels are perfectly healthy. The root cause is in the brain. And by taking Viagra or Cialis in order to still function well enough for sex while you're still recovering or not even really starting recovery yet, it can be like taking painkillers after you've sprained your ankle badly in order to continue running. It might help you perform in that short term, but it's not actually helping the healing process, and it can, in fact, delay the healing process. At least that's what I've seen in my clients. This was not what I wanted to hear, and I legitimately thought of taking my life because I felt like such a failure. Yeah, I've heard that one a lot too. And I don't have any statistics or knowledge about how many people have actually attempted or completed suicide because of the difficulties they have faced connecting intimately with partners because of their porn-induced sexual dysfunctions or their addiction to pornography. But I certainly have heard from a lot of people who have considered it or even attempted it. And there's a lot to hope for. I'm glad you found me because now you know that you're not alone. There are many people who have walked this path before you and who are walking it now with you. And there's so much to hope for and no reason that you can't get to that place where you have the ability to connect with someone that you're really attracted to and to enjoy that relationship as it should be without the influence of pornography holding you back and limiting you in that regard. So there's so much to hope for, but only as long as you're alive. And I hope anyone out here in the world who needs to hear that message hears it now, loud and clear. However, it was around this time that I came across your book and the book, Your Brain on Porn. I learned so much from both of these books and realized that I needed to make a change. It was around this time that I got my first 90 days. However, it was not hard mode. I was still masturbating weekly. I did meet one woman during that time, but I still suffered from the same problem. It was disheartening to make it so long without porn and not see results. So I ended up going back to porn to make sure everything was okay. What a mistake that was. You've probably seen those cartoons of the miner who's been mining for diamonds for 20 years, and he gives up when he's just inches away from finally getting those diamonds. And I see that happen with a lot of people on this journey as well. 90 days is a great start. It's a great foundation, but it is commonly only the end of the beginning when you reach 90 days. Most people do see progress within that time, but most people also need much longer in order to fully recover, or even to really start seeing significant gains. So it's very possible that you are, on the cusp of reaching more significant progress when you decided you wanted to make sure everything was still working okay with pornography. And that's one of the lies that the addicted part of our brains will tell us. We should make sure that everything's, functioning properly biomechanically. So we'll have to watch porn, right? It's the only responsible thing to do. And in fact, that is simply more self-sabotage. If you're really concerned and want to try masturbating porn-free, that's a different question and a different issue. Most of the people I work with are not really masturbation addicts, they are porn addicts. And so there can be ways to incorporate porn-free masturbation healthfully, even along recovery. And I made another article and video about that earlier this year called Is Masturbating Healthy or Not? So check that one out. Once I went back to porn, I fell off the wagon and used for another 3 years. I knew that what I was doing was wrong, though. I never felt okay after using porn once I knew how harmful it could be. That, sir, is the danger of addiction, that even after you've realized the harmful consequences of engaging in that behavior, you find yourself going back to it again and again, breaking promises to yourself, filled with shame and self-loathing afterward because, once again, you have sabotaged yourself and brought yourself farther away from what you really desire. But you're not alone in that cycle, and it's not an inescapable cycle. Seek out help and support and guidance, and you can more easily break out of that cycle and really move forward. Finally, in the present year, once the quarantine hit, I came across your YouTube channel and watched some success stories. I was so inspired and I knew I could also achieve success if I tried. That was the spark that led me to dropping porn for good and really taking it seriously. I decided hard mode was the right approach for me, so I began and very quickly entered into an incredibly long flatline. It was so bad, and there was constantly a voice in the back of my head telling me I should use porn just to make sure everything was okay. But I knew what would happen if I did that. I had experience falling into that same trap 3 years ago, so I just accepted that my dick was dead for now and left it alone. Good for you. Those lies, they tend to come back round and round again, and we hear the same lies over and over again from that addicted part of our brains. One thing that can help is a little journaling exercise where you write down every lie or rationalization you've ever told yourself in order to convince yourself to use porn. And next to each one of those lies, I want you to write the real truth. And if you can make a thorough list like that, have it all laid out for you, then you should be able to better recognize those lies for what they are in the future. During this time, I met a wonderful woman, and after failing to be intimate with her the first time, I was just honest and told her what I was struggling with. I told her we need to be patient and trust the process. I'm lucky that she agreed because we ended up failing quite a lot while I was in the flatline. The path to success is a lot of failure. But just recently, after 99 days of no PMO, I woke up harder than ever. It was like someone turned on the light switch and it felt different. 99 days. Who knows if that would have been the same 4 years ago when you first tried, but imagine if it was and you were only 9 days away from that sensation of real progress happening and you chose to go back and check yourself with pornography. And you're not alone in that. I don't want you to feel ashamed of that, but I'm very glad that you learned from that mistake and didn't repeat it. Progress along this journey is not linear, and so you might feel like nothing is happening for a long time, then all of a sudden things are changing. You might feel like things are happening right away and things are improving right away, and then fall into a dip, into a flat line for quite a while. You might still face more downs along this journey, but doubtless you will continue to see ups as well until you reach a new normal where you're just you and you no longer have to worry about these performance issues that are from the porn-induced origin. I knew that day something changed. When I saw her, just kissing her started to make me hard. That night we were able to have successful sex with no dysfunction at all. I couldn't believe it. After so many years of failure, depression, and shame, it worked. We proceeded to have more sex without any issues at all. All of this is possible because I had the resolve to stop looking at porn. I understand now how important it is to keep that toxicity out of my life. Looking forward, I believe I can have the life that I've always wanted. I no longer feel like a failure. I actually feel stronger than ever that I was able to stop such an intense addiction in my life. Thank you so much, and keep spreading the good message. You are changing lives for the better. Well, congratulations to you, Anon, and thank you for sharing your story with me and with everyone listening now. You said that you came back to my channel and were inspired by the success stories of others. Maybe now, future people will be inspired by your story to finally stop their pornography use and heal for good, pursuing what they really want, which is what you now seem to have: a loving relationship, satisfying intimacy, physically and emotionally. So good job to you, and thank you again for sharing that story. And again, if you out there have a story that you want to share, you can share it anonymously, then just contact me. And you can find ways to work with me personally at my website, addictedtointernetporn.com. And if you want to have some camaraderie and some support along this journey, either in conjunction with coaching with me or alone, also check out the support and discussion group that I run. Link will be down in the description below. It's been a very powerful resource for a lot of people since I started it earlier this year. We have 3 meeting times a week. Most people come to 1, but you can come to multiple if you want. And you can sign up for that through my Patreon. So it's $40 a month. And it's been well worth it for many of the guys there. It's been inspiring to watch those guys grow and to see them make healing-focused friendships there and to support each other. It's made a big difference in their lives, and it can make a big difference in yours too if you sign up and really give yourself to it, because you will get just as much or more out of it as you give to it. And that goes for anything in life, but especially in recovery. I don't want to see people lingering for years, half-heartedly trying to recover, like I see so many people try to do. It's going to save you a lot of time and energy and money in the end if you commit as soon as possible and resolve this with 100% effort. Not that it's ever completely resolved. You will always have to be aware that this is a danger. If you get complacent and go back to porn, you could bring those issues back into your life that you worked so hard to recover from. But getting to that point where you are porn-free and you have the tools and the support necessary to help you remain that way as fast as possible is going to be something you look back on with gratitude for yourself for making that choice. So do what you have to do in that regard. Learn as much as possible. Stay here with me on the channel and have a wonderful porn-free day. I'll see you next time.